Hello, and welcome to the Comedians Paradise. This is where we speak to comedians, comedy club promoters, comedy writers, improv troupes, clowns from across the comedy world. Now, today's guest is one of the chief organizers of one of the most well-known improv troupes in London, and a troupe that supports many Asians across London, of Comediasians. It's a great little show. I went there myself a few months ago, and his name is a lot like the guy from Terminator 2, the savior of the human race. His first name is John, and his surname is something that is very unique that shows what a tremendous and powerful man he is. John Nguyen. Nguyen. Please welcome John Nguyen.
Thanks for applauding me there. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I would describe myself as one of the chief organizers of Comediasians. We very much lead by sort of committee. In fact, we have multiple committees that
Oh,
help
okay.
help plan it. Though we're not necessarily a flat structure. I don't know how to describe it. It's that we early on we realized that we didn't want to be a one person show, so a group of us volunteered to do different aspects of maintenance of the team, basically, of the Comediasians. So yeah, we this is something that's evolved and it's still evolving over the 5.5 years we've been together. We do have we used to call it artistic director. I think they now call themselves the chairman, which is fine, or chairperson. I'm not sure what the correct phrase is in a sense. But yeah, so we had someone who sort of guides the ship to a little bit, but everyone else, the general running of the ship, as it were, metaphorically, is done by various committees who work on getting us gigs, work on sorting out rehearsals, sorting out social media, all that sort of stuff. Because it takes a lot of work to promote yourselves and to like maintain an excellent quality of work, basically. So I don't say I'm involved heavily. I wouldn't say I'm one of the chief organizers. I'm just like one of the members who does this work, which is one of the successful ways of running an improv troupe, I think.
But one of the things I've heard about improv, and you've probably heard it a lot as well, being in improv, a lot of people say with improv, as you get older, it's a lot of hard work to get people in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing about improv, generally speaking, regardless of whether you are Asian, not Asian, or whatever sense. How do you tell people about something that exists if they don't already know about it? Improv is one of those things that it's hard to describe to people if they've never seen it before, and a lot of people will equate it to stand up, and it is there are similarities to improv and stand up, but they're not the same. Like for example, stand up spend a lot of time writing stuff down and practicing it and doing the same thing over and over again, refining it and rehearsing. As improv, we practice techniques and skills, but the words we say change every single time. So it's like it's difficult to explain to somebody. And even I've got family members who think I do stand up and I don't. I do improv, and it's hard to explain that to them. I don't know what the Vietnamese word of improv is. Even I've never really looked into it. It's hard to explain to my family members what it is. I got an aunt who thinks I'm an actor, and I can't dissuade her of that, despite the fact I've never really done any acting uh, in that sort of thing. But it's yeah, it's I love improv very much, and it's hard to get people into the room. But there are sort of ways to do it. Like social media has helped that to some degree, I think. And there's been a big shift in the world where improv is more accessible. There's a media company in the US called Dropout TV, and they do a lot of improv stuff through a subscription service. So that widens it up, and they brought like lots of diverse sort of improvisers onto that platform, which sort of helps. And for years in the UK, the biggest cornerstone of understanding of improv was Whose Line Is It Anyway, which doesn't run any longer in the UK, and I think in America it doesn't run long either. I think it stopped, but that was the biggest sort of way of showing it. But even that showed only a small percentage of what improv was, which is the game sort of structure, as opposed to like the how to make up like a whole theatrical show or how to make a comedy set or like a little on the spot sketch show, basically. So it's not as you get old necessarily. It's a case of how do you reach people who don't know you exist without word of mouth? And it's a case of the only way you can do it is telling people to spread the word manually.
No, I meant like getting the troupe together in
Oh,
terms
okay.
of that's the biggest bit that I've heard from different people. And I know that there's a comedian called Stanley Brooks who used to do improv, but doesn't do it as much anymore, and he says that was the biggest issue. And also Victoria Flynn said that as well.
Oh, okay, interesting. I mean, I'm 43, which is relative. I think probably the average age for many people who started improv at a certain point in time. So I don't think I'm particularly. I wouldn't say I'm old of the older generation. I've never personally had a problem finding improv troupe or getting together, but I go to all the events. Like I go and be in the community, not just being in shows. So I'll go and watch shows. I'll go and take workshops. I will hang out improv festivals, go to fringe festivals, and sort of meet people and then look out for auditions. Like using social media, a lot of them use Facebook or Instagram to look for new members or to start new troops, and that's how I sort of found it by sort of being proactive. But again, it's hard if you're not already in the sphere of looking for those things, you wouldn't know where to start looking for those sort of things, which is difficult. But yeah, I can't take other people's experience, but so far I've been pretty lucky in finding what I call my tribe in improv and keeping with them. Um,
But when you're putting the shows together for Comediasians and getting the rehearsal spaces,
mhm.
and I went to the show itself. There's about 8, 9, or 10 people. I mean, is it straightforward to get them all together, or
We rehearse twice a month, the Comediasians on average, together. So basically, and what we rehearse is the techniques that we use for the shows, and also just general trust, so that we know we won't sort of make each other look bad on stage. That's one of the big things we do is practice a lot of exercises that make sure we know what we're doing. Getting together for shows, there was a point in time when Community Agents was down to a fairly low number of core members, maybe 8 or so. And at that point, a lot of us were freelancers. So it was difficult to get people together for shows there. So I think there were points when we had 4 or 5 people turning up for shows. Now we're pretty lucky. We've got about sort of between 18 and 20 members who are active at the moment. And so we've never not recently had any problems finding enough members for shows. Um, but it's a case of commitment. We ask people to come to rehearsals. We ask people to come to rehearsal techniques and then commit their time to the shows, basically. Because improv doesn't pay a lot.
no?
Even it's a nominal amount that we sort of help pay each other, basically. But what it means is that we turn up, we have fun, and it helps promote ourselves. And it's one of the big things for Comediasians was to improve the numbers of Asians on stage, like get more Asians on stage. So we do that by showcasing all our talents on stage and then encouraging our people to come along. And when we do a monthly show, it's called Comediations and Friends, and that's not just us. That's us doing our show and then asking people in the audience to come up and join us for games and for little scenes. So we're getting more people on stage. To jam us, you don't have to be Asian, but we encourage you if you're Asian to come to the show and then come and watch us and come and enjoy time with us if we can.
Can I ask
Mhm.
what? So I'm running a Asian comedy karaoke show. So I
Right.
started it. I did one on last year, and I'm doing one on the last Sunday of the month in New Malden. But the thing I found about it, in the first show in New Malden,
Mhm.
80% of them are white, and that's a bad thing. But I just found it interesting that you've built it as such a show, but yet
Mhm.
the people that you're, yeah, it attracted completely the people that you weren't trying to get. It's not a bad thing and all that, but do you find that to be like 50-50, despite it being like an Asian show, or is it mostly like people from Southeast Asia and East Asia?
I've never really looked at the audience enough to know, to be honest with you. It's like, because once you start the show, you sort of get the adrenaline going. You just don't really see like the audience too much. I have spoken to many audience members after the show, and most of the ones I speak to are Asian, and they tell me they come to the show because they've typed in the word comedy and Asian into like search engines, and that's how they found us effectively. And we've also run workshops in the past, which gets us some people who like to come back and come and join us on the stage. But we welcome everyone to come along to watch the shows, and there are certainly faces who are not Asian in the audience, but when it comes to like the amount of people, I've never really known whether it's greater or lesser. To be honest with you, it's one of those sort of things like we're just happy that people are turning up in many ways. But I like to think we have a larger than normal percentage of Asian people in the audience than the average improv show. But I have no data to confirm that. It's just a nice feeling that I like to think I have.
Yeah, it was something out of interest. I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested to see, but yeah. Um, And with the show itself, for people that don't know about improv and about
Mm.
the work that goes into putting a good improv show, how much time and dedication goes into the rehearsals, and also when you get to the venue, how much effort goes into preparing the show?
Oh well, I say this is accumulation of like 5 years worth of, some of us have been with the team for 5 years, and it's just that trust is paramount to a good show. Like having people you work with you can trust a great deal, like physicality wise and like subject matter wise. And we do, when we get people on board, we ask them to do about 6 months of rehearsals before being in any shows, so that they get the vibe and the group. And so we rehearse about twice a month on average. Um, so it's a lot of hours that people put in before they get to be in a show. And then when we get into the show, it's a case of we assign one member of the Comediasians to be what we call the gig captain, who does all the logistics of the night, works out who's doing the presentation, who's running the games, who's running the jam, that sort of thing, and everyone reports to the gig captain. So we have a system in place where everyone is like has a role, has a job to take care of, and everyone, we're all learning on the spot. Basically, everything sort of things can change, but we're all trying to together. So a lot of work goes into making it look well oiled on the night and make it look professional for the people who are watching the show. But like I say, it's a case of we feel very close to each other as an improv troupe. We often describe ourselves as our chosen Asian family, the family we choose to spend our time with, because it's that sort of thing where we have a lot of time and fun together. We had last year we went on to a summer retreat where most of us went into a big country house estate and cooked food and played games for a whole weekend. And at Christmas, we all went for the big Christmas meal. So we went mini golfing together a couple of years ago. So we're trying to do things that not only are just work related, like improv's barely work, but work related, but also social related. We think it's important to have both aspects, of like the hard work you put in for rehearsing improv and learning new techniques, and like relaxing and having fun with your friends and making fun of each other like any family does, in that sense. So it's a lot of hard work, it is, but it's also a lot of fun work on top of that.
Hmm. And how do you guys keep that up? Because I know that how do you guys keep that energy, that excitement, that vibe going in?
Oh, it's difficult to say because I don't. It's one of those things that when you find a good group of people and you sort of click, it's much easier in many ways. I mean, we have communications. We use communications with WhatsApp, and we have lots of banter through that, basically about all sorts of things that go on there, and that helps keep energy up. And just we are sort of, and we all have it on little projects. A lot of us, as I said, are freelancers, so and so we all big each other up on our different projects and go to each other's projects. Some of us are actors, so we go and watch each other's like stage shows. We used to have birthday parties together. We go to karaoke together. It's a case of positivity and wanting to be there. It's like when we auditioned for people, one of the big things we're looking for was obviously looking for improv skills and ability and like comic timing and that sort of stuff. That's all part of it. But one of the things that I was looking for when I was on the audition committee was people who have like that positive vibe that we're looking for. People who would like, it'd be good to spend time with and have time with
Ah,
and fun with, basically. Because if you want to spend a lot of your time with people and commit time with people, you want to spend time with them. So you're going to spend, want to have that vibe to go with. And that's why I recommend any improv troupe have is look at that vibe if you can and sort of mesh together and spend time outside of improv together. That's what we do to help the energy. Um, but as I say, we have different artists and directors come in. We change every 6 months on average, and they help bolster a new direction, and that helps the energy go up because we get a new set of guidance for that sort of time to work towards, basically.
what so when you're recruiting people for the troupe,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell me not to ask this question, but what are things that give away whether someone's going to be a good fit or not that aren't obvious?
It's difficult to say. I mean, when we have the audition committee, everyone has a say. So it's not just like two people decide everyone. So everyone who comes to the audition, like we all, like a few people run it and a few people run take notes, but everyone has to have that feeling and basically gets that sort of stuff. Um, Things that may not get you into the troupe. For me, I'm not saying for everyone else, but for me, like if you are trying to be funny at the expense of other people, that's something that we don't enjoy. So if you're making fun of other people's accents or making fun of people's isms like ageism and that sort of thing, like which is which can be funny in some circumstances, but for improv, it's a difficult field to navigate. So that sort of thing doesn't tend to give me any sort of improv joy when that's made fun of, like in the moment, because you don't know what people are sensitive to at that point in time. So I try not to do that sort of thing. And it's just, and not listening is something that often doesn't let me feel that you're suitable for a group. If you like someone just says something, you didn't hear what they said, or didn't even acknowledge what they said, or were too in your head to think about trying to be funny as opposed to thinking what's happening right now, that sort of thing will tend to turn me off the person when improvising purposes.
What you said there describes a lot of stand-ups.
Well, it's different, I guess, because stand-ups stand-ups are always thinking. I'm not just okay, I'm not stand-ups, so I don't know, but I'm saying I see some stand-ups who are always looking for the punchline, which is fine sometimes. But if you're always looking for every single line, that doesn't work with improv, because improv needs, in my experience, a build-up to the punchline. Every line can't be a punchline because the audience will lose faith in this thing. It just, and you can't go. You run out of steam fairly quickly, I find anyway. Whereas if you've practiced a stand-up set, then of course you want it, because you've been holding that set for sometimes years to get to the point where you want to build up that punchline every so often, basically. Whereas improv, you need to sort of earn it, but it's a different skill set, similar but different.
It's because stand-up is, yeah, it's a lone wolf's journey. It's you and you. It's all about me, me, me. You listen
Yeah.
to my views, whilst I think improv and what you said there sounds similar to what I've studied in a little sitcom workshop I've been in, where it's not really about the funny line. It's all about the characters and how they interact that gets the comedy rather than perhaps the funny joke.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I was often taught in improv that relationship is what matters over everything else, and that still guides me a lot. Like how I relate to other person, people on stage, tends to be how I work. Um, but yeah, so you can do like lone, and there are some games in there, improv games, famously like World's Worst and Sex with Me. They're two very standard improv games where you are trying to be, you're doing the one funny liner. So there is some of that in improv, but that's a lone person game normally. Um, Whereas if you're doing like a long game, like like 3 or 4 minutes, if you're trying to make a punchline every other line without having written it down before, it's quite tiring uh, to do that. So you've got to sort of relax into it a bit and focus on the relationship, I think. So yeah, that will help in audition as well. Like focusing on the other people always helps me, I think.
Hmm. But what's when you're performing a stage, how do you get the yeah, how do you get the focus to focus on the other person and be on the team? Because I know that a lot of comedians, if you put them in that troupe, most of the time, as you said, they want the funny line.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't think about what the other person's giving or how they react. They're like, how can I get the funny line at the end? And how do you make sure that you keep listening and play your role in the football team?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that comes down to going to rehearsals and like playing with people and knowing what they like and what they don't like. So there are certain people,
Uh,
members of Comediations, where I go, okay, some people like prefer the like highbrow intellectual wordplay, and some people like the big comedy physical moves. And so after practicing and rehearsing with them, we'll sort of go down a route in that sort of sense. Like, okay, this, it's not always the same case. Some people are like, oh, one of my members of the team, Gurinder, who loves throwing around on stage. So we'll often make situations where he can throw around on some stage, whereas other members wouldn't want to do that. So I wouldn't go down that route in my head. So like sort of thing. I'm not trying to plan anything in advance because I've got a feeling that this person loves wordplay. Okay, well, team up some wordplay in that sort of thing. Um, Knowing what people like is helpful, and you go and do that from you going to rehearsals. And I also think because comedians are very lucky, we can perform at least once a month, if not more, based on the festivals and guest slots. That if you have a show where you don't do any, where you post something funny, it will even out over the course of 12 shows. That at some point, someone else will make you look good, and then you'll get the big line at the end of a set or whatever. It's all about making sure everyone feels they've contributed. And even if one show I don't do anything that was particularly funny, it can happen. I know that at some point I'll do enough shows over the course of a year that it will even itself out to do that. Knowing comedians is very lucky that we get enough stage time a year where everyone gets to do multiple shows. and we've worked hard to get to that situation. So we trust that we all get to do funny things, and we also are happy in making the other person do the funny thing, in that sense. And yeah, that's my answer.
I've got some of it.
Yeah.
um, what do you feel are some of for someone that's outside of improv? What do
Mm-hmm.
you feel are often the misconceptions? Because often when you go online, you look it up, people say that you want to be, I don't know, if you want to be better with people or social skills, or if you want to be funny, or if you want to be more witty, or if you want to be more playful in your interactions with people, you do an improv workshop.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done one improv workshop. Some of the games are good and all that, but I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be the thing that turns you to that. It's a fun little game and you get to meet some great people, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it from my side that it's the answer to that. What do you think are like some misconceptions from people outside?
I am difficult. I'm not sure. I've never really, improv. Improv is useful for different things depending on what you want out of it. Because there's improv for, like, as you say, social skills. There's improv for confidence building. There's improv for mental well-being, and there's improv for performance. Right? There's all different. So, and going to your first improv class is, generally speaking, a mixture of trying to go all four of those things to work well, like increase your confidence, your social skills, your mental well-being, and your performance skills all at once. So it doesn't seem very targeted. In that sense, it's a case of, misconception is that improv is something you can do quickly. I think you can go to like a level one or beginners class that lasts 6 or 8 weeks, and yes, at the end of it, you will develop some skills. But if you think those skills are everything you'll ever need to know about improv, that's probably the misconception. That it takes. I mean, I've done dozens or hundreds of hours of training myself in improv classes and workshops where I've taken them, and I continue to keep taking. I don't stop taking them. I take workshops all the time to learn different skills, the whole or practice skills I've from different practitioners to learn different points of view. And I also have a small background in amateur dramatics, so I had a lot of the confidence skills already going in to improv. And now that I teach improv, I see people like wanting to be good now, like wanting to be good at something straight away, and not realizing that it takes some time to practice it and to sort of know that may not be the best straight away at it. And that's probably the biggest misconception I've seen people have, is like, I the confidence they've got is great, and they think they're going to be great straight away the first time they do something. Like anything, it takes hours of practice before your brain gets around like doing something. So you're doing so unconsciously well that you don't have to worry about it any longer. Um, but it's not going to fix, like, not fix, not fix, not going to make you the most confident person after one course. You've got sort of text principles and sort of practice them basically to become more confident. And people do it automatically without thinking about it. One of the big principles of improv is the phrase "yes and," where basically you want to say, "Yeah, I agree with something," and yeah, we'll build upon it, basically. And it's one of those sort of things. It doesn't just mean saying yes and then saying and. It means like really understanding what people are saying. Like, okay, I understand what you're going on about, and then adding to their conversation in a way that helps that conversation, as opposed to just saying anything that just makes sense grammatically. But that's a difficult thing to get your head around after like only 6 hours of improv, right? It's like, if we spend only 2 hours of it, you're not going to get it in the first 2 hours. It's going to take a while of going, okay, and then gently going, this is how you've done it, this is what it looks like. And it's a gentle sort of general gradual change. I think that's probably, for me, because actually people think it's going to be a sudden like life-changing experience, and it can be for some people, but it takes more time than like a single course can allow you, without some practice in both in with all courses or jams or outside of courses, basically.
Yeah. That another thing on that as well is a lot of people. The big, most famous thing about improv is what we mentioned before. Whose line it is anyway. Everyone knows about that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's short form improv, and I think a lot of people don't even know of long form improv. Like for the ones that are listening right now, and they're like, "Oh, listen here, Sonny Jim. It's all about whose line it is anyway." I don't. If you're gonna say people in layman's term, what is a good example of long form improv, and what's an example of short form improv?
Okay. Short form improv is normally a set that lasts, well, a single game that lasts maybe 1 minute to 3 minutes, generally speaking, and has some sort of rule constraint. The famous one being the alphabet game, where you've got to speak in sentences on the letters of the alphabet, or number of words where you can only set a set number of words before you stop talking. They have specific rules constraints, which sort of make the thing fun. Like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where one of the classic games is sit, stand, lie down, where someone's always got to be sitting, someone's got to lie, and sort of stand down. Basically, you must follow that rule structure, otherwise the game doesn't work. Whereas long form is less rule structures. There's almost no rule structure to it. You're just making a relationship on stage out of some sort of inspiration from the audience, which could be a word, a location, a relationship, or something like that. And you make a relationship up at that point in time. It doesn't have to be funny. Improv doesn't have to be like funny at all. There's many improv shows that aren't funny, that are like what we call theatrical improv shows, where they are more like as if you're making a play up on stage. So long form to me is basically trying to make a sketch show or a play on the spot. And short form is like you're given some rules and you're playing the game to those rules. Long form improv, if you go ever watch, Paul Merton does a touring show called Paul Merton and Chums, where he does half short form, half long form. The first half is short form games, the last half is like a 45-minute long show. Another famous long form shows, there would be like Ostentatious, which is the improvised Jane Austen novel. Showstoppers doing improvised musical. Bubble Blighton doing improvised Enid Blyton. Spontaneous Potter does improvised Harry Potter novel. They are all sort of long form. They are like one continuous story or one continuous block, and then games within them. That's one little thing. And I'm taking part on it's not this weekend, the weekend of the 24th of April. 24th, yeah, 24th, 25th. So I'm doing a Southend improvathon, which is 48 hours long, and that's going to be long form. But within it, there'll be some short form games just to keep our energy up, basically. And short form ones, what's a good example of short form? Comedy Store Players, they do a show, I think, once a month on a Sunday. They do an excellent, very well polished short form set. And Do the Right Scene does a combination of short form, long form. They do a show Hoopla once a month. They're very good. Do the Right Scene is the all black improv troupe based in London, and they have guests, acts, and they do a great short form and long form set there, basically. But I encourage anyone who wants to seek out places to go and watch as much improv as you can, to understand what short form, long form is, and what you like. Some people like short form, some people like long form, some people like both. And if you get a chance to go to improv festivals, you'll see a combination of both, basically. But yeah, it's a long answer. But yeah, the short answer is short form has some rules and a short set. Long form tends to be anything between 10 minutes to an hour and a half, where it's one continuous sort of set of scenes or set of stories, basically.
Okay. And when you're with every journey into entertainment, there's always often a moment that gets you into it, and you've been in improv a long time. What is it that's made you fall in love with improv, and what keeps you in the world of improv?
So so I said before, I had a history of amateur dramatics. So I did a lot of musicals when I was younger, and I stopped doing it. As a good Asian child, I went took my degree in law and then didn't go back to performing until I was like 30 something. When I went to a jam once and just started, and just remembered how much I liked making stuff up. It was a fun thing. And I still enjoy theatre, but I don't have time to read plays or learn scripts any longer. So that sort of got back into like, okay, it's nice to go and just meet new people. It was a way of making friends for one thing. And for the vast majority of the time I meet improvisers, they're positive, lovely people who want you to be around, which is a nice sort of feeling. So that got me into it, like going out to a jam, going to a course, and just sort of turning up and having a regular thing to do every week outside of home. What keeps me going, it really is the people. Seeing them become good at improv, seeing them make fun, seeing them have fun, seeing them like just be nice people and learning about them, and like how their lives are different from mine, how their lives are similar to mine. It's a big friendship group, basically. Almost every improviser I've ever met, I have become friends with to some degree. It's not like a situation, I can't imagine it's very different. It's a standard where you meet people, you have a sense of camaraderie, right? You meet people who are doing a similar work, sort of on a stamp circuit to you, and you sort of have a similar sort of sense of we're in this together, and let's support each other in this. And improv does that. It keeps me going in that. And I've got a situation where I'm now able to teach a little bit, and I like to travel for festivals. I still meet more people. I get to travel across the world, put on a little show, and I hang out in like places like Oslo or Amsterdam or Dublin where I've been to festivals, and just it keeps me going, and I'll just keep focusing on the next thing. Um, but it's just it makes me happy really. If it stopped making me happy, I would probably stop doing it. But it still keeps me in there because I feel energized and joyful every time I go to a workshop or a class or a show. Yeah.
What you said there is similar to me in a way, because you get to meet lots of interesting people, you get to do lots of interesting things, gives you excuse to travel. Um, but for me, with stand up, what I really like about the people is that, yeah, I mean, you get people from all sorts of walks of life, but you're right in terms of we're in it together. In a show,
Mm-hmm.
it's especially when I see it sometimes as if you're as a team, especially in a short bill. It's a team effort for
Mm-hmm.
the show to be good. Um, and yeah, a lot of the stand-ups a very lonely thing, and we got to do our own set, and we got to travel, we got to do this, and yeah, I feel on whatever a stand-up is, what level they are or who they are, I feel being one myself, I feel I can understand them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm for lack of improv, we often travel alone, but you can be a lone improviser sometimes traveling. But you know at the other end, you'll meet people who are generally like-minded and will want to hang out with you. Um, is that something? Because often I go to improv festivals. I've been traveling to improv festivals for a few years now, and like I've met some people who have been traveling alone because because that's the way they've been. They don't have a troupe traveling because the whole troupe can't afford the travel, and so it's nice to hang out together with those sort of people. I've got a friend who I only see in Dublin. I only see in Dublin, Janet, lovely lady Janet, and she does like they have a mixed thing in Dublin where you can apply to be a team and be coached by somebody, and you'll just be on stage for that night. And Janet often applies, and she's often there, and like she doesn't travel with anyone else. I always go sit with her, hang out with her. So anytime I see her, and it's just nice to go and see someone like once a year. Go, like, great, how are you? You know, catch up. How people getting together? Because I often travel by myself to these festivals as well. Because it's just nice to go and know that people that run there. But yeah, I've got friends like like yourself who are also stand ups, and they tell me like something to do. Like, despite the way it seems like, it's not 7 mini shows; it's one show they put together, and they will work together to put. And like when MCs put things together, they will check on people like what order they want to be on, and they'll check things like pronunciation of names and like and it sometimes seems like they're making fun of each other, but they're doing it with they need to do it with the people they really like. They wouldn't do it if they didn't like each other in these situations. So it's but the work, I just believe I couldn't do stand up myself. The work of writing material down and then practicing that material and then having put out in the world that material and then having to repeat it to see if it works more than once is to me quite a daunting thing. It's why improv, I make it up on the night and it's gone. I never have to worry about it again. Like I never repeat myself. But like I can imagine the vulnerability that comes with being a stand up can be a bit scary because you're putting your own like words that you've written down out for the world to see. I imagine.
And you're sharing your thoughts and
Yeah.
ideas, and you're even, yeah, and some sometimes you realize some of those short thoughts shouldn't be said. No, no. Uh, it's yeah, it is risky, but I've been doing it. I mean, I remember when I first used to do it, I used to get terrified, and I had to get support from the family to come up and support me on
Mm-hmm.
friends. But then, as I got used to it in the first 100 gigs or so, I got more used to it, and it didn't become such a big thing anymore. And you
Mm-hmm.
used to it, you get comfortable on stage, and you enjoy it, and you get once you do it after a certain while, you're also more able to improvise and play with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You're a lot more comfortable with the jokes or ideas you've done not working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun when it goes well, and it's a lot of fun being up there. I mean, they've come in to have a good time. You've come in to make them laugh, and
Mm-hmm.
let's have a fun time together and see where it goes. Um, what was I getting at? But I mean, both improv and performing the arts. I mean, I'm going to share a story with you, John,
Okay.
and I want to hear what your thoughts are. So,
All right.
being a comedian doing that, I mean, from the agent side, they're happy to know that I do that on the side, but they don't want to know about the job that I do, the other job I do, which is I work in coffee shops and I do comedy in the evenings.
Mm-hmm.
That bit's hidden, but that's and it isn't a thing that the family are happy that I'm doing it, but it's not something that they would like me to do. They would much rather I be like a lawyer or a doctor or anything like that. That's the thing that's looked upon because the arts, I mean, often the times they don't pay that well.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm both. Well, I'm quite lucky in a sense that my father has always supported me in the arts. Like he used to drive me to all my when I was younger, all my amateur dramatic rehearsals. Like he took me to there, let me do it, and that. So he's never seen much, never watched me do a show. He'll never do that. He's never seen me ever do a show ever. I don't think I ever want to. But he always like, whatever makes me happy. He wants me to follow my bliss basically and be what's happy about me. And before my mother passed away, she was also supportive. Like she used to help like sew costumes for like when I was younger, and like help make, help me find cakes and things like that to bring to. I never really understood that was her way of supporting. And she came watch shows occasionally, didn't really get it. Like I did Hamlet when I was younger. She had no idea what was going on. Like bless her. She when I did Hamlet when I was like 12, no, 15. But yeah, I've got a law degree. I don't use it. I mean, I did the law degree because that's what the thing was. My family wanted me to do, and I got it. And I've got a fairly poor law degree. It's a 2-2. It's not great, but it exists. It's there. And I now my day job. I work I work as a civil servant for local government, which I'm very happy with. I keep doing that. Um, but my family are interested. My extended family are interested in my jobs at all. They don't talk about. It, don't want to talk about because I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, or I don't earn enough money to have a big house and that sort of thing. So it's like, well, you're doing all right, but we don't worry about it too much, in a sense. My father, though, who I love very much, bless him, he just lets me do. He tells people that I comedy, I teach comedy, which is kind of true because I can't. Again, I don't know the word for improv in Vietnamese. And when we try to explain to the rest of the family, they don't understand why that doesn't make me more money. In the cases like there's not as much money in the arts as not everyone can be Tom Cruise, and that sort of thing. But so yeah, when I tell people I got to my aunt's once I did this gig and it cost me money. She said, "Well, why are you doing it then?" I'm going because I'd like to do it, and she couldn't get her head around it. That if something doesn't make me money, why am I traveling to do it, to go like spend like 50 quid on a train ticket to get 40 quid back? Like it's not something my family will ever, of a certain generation above me, will ever understand. I imagine my family or generation below me probably get it, but the family generation above me just like no, because a lot of them are immigrants and refugees, and so money was the way to keep themselves in the country, and so therefore that was the thing. And that's the way you get sponsor people over the country. You got to earn money to bring other people over, other family members. So that's the big driving force for my family was in that generation. Whereas for me, it's about being happy about with what I do in my life, and improv makes me happy.
Yeah. It's I want to see what another thought you say on this as well, John. Sometimes when I'm with some of my Asian relatives or like with people that I know in a circle, they often go round in a circle. When I was younger, they used to say, "Oh, my son does this. My son got a grade on this, did this and that, this and that." When they got to my mum, she would say, "I do comedy," and then she would. So I studied computing with business and I did web development. So
Mm-hmm.
she would lie to them and say I did web development, not the and do comedy because it makes it look good. But did you get any of that? Like they would go around in a little circle and say, "This one does that. This
When
one does that."
I didn't have that when I was an adult. That didn't really happen. But when I was a child, certainly was a case of like they talk about grades. Like he got an A in this. He was very good at
Yeah,
English, very
yes,
good at
yes, yes,
maths,
yes.
and that sort of thing. And it was always English, maths, and science were the ones that my mother would mention when talking with the aunts. Basically, it would never be like, oh, he's also got I've got a theatre studies A level. She never talk about that. Like that's not what it, but she'd happily talk about my politics A level,
Ah,
um, in that sort of thing. It's because it's a tangible product. I think it's because the arts, for my family certainly was like a foreign land. It was a foreign land that didn't make money as far as so therefore they didn't really think about it. In that sense, it's like I think my family were playing the percentages. Like if you become a doctor, odds are you'll make a fair amount of money. If you become a lawyer, odds are you make a lot of money. If you become an actor, the odds are against you in making money. So it was a percentage game for my family to push me into sort of directions. And I must admit, I did have the old Asian guilt where the reason I did a law degree and didn't do a arts degree was because my mother basically was not very happy if I didn't. She would have been devastated if I didn't do it. My dad probably would have cared less. But my mother, though, would have been devastated if I didn't do something like a law degree. She wanted to become a doctor, and I can't stand the sight of blood, so it was never going to work. Uh, in that sense, I wince at those sort of things, and I know they train out of me. Uh, Basically. But yeah, the aunts would often talk about like how good people are at certain things. Sport was also a good one. People used to talk about sport. I was very good at sport. So some of my cousins were good at sport. So that was a big like he's very good at rugby. He's very good at that sort of thing. Whereas never once was the fact that I won an acting award as a kid was ever mentioned by my mother. There was a whole ceremony. I went and collected it. Mother never mentioned it to anyone, like because it was like not sort of shameful, just because I don't think she was. It just wasn't something that's full of pride. Like it's not like it wasn't the opposite of pride. It's like the neutral level of pride. Like, yeah, it's okay, you've got it. But if you could go and save someone's life with a doctor's degree, that'd be better. That sort of thing. So yeah, I agree. There is family members of a certain generation will talk about like people's salaries is a big thing. I know my family used to talk about like he's like this is his job. He earns a lot of money. Like one of my uncles I think used to work in removals or whatever, the removal van, like not particularly like high status job, but because he used to work lots of evenings, weekends, he made a fair amount of money for like overtime, like did long distance travel, like get paid overnight travel, that sort of thing. And so that was something that people would mention because like, oh, yeah, he's a driver, but he makes a lot of money out of it. So that adds to the prestige, right? That if you can show you've got a good earning because of it, or for like people who work away from home a lot, but the house is very nice. Like one of my cousins married a pilot, I believe, and so her mother, my aunt, was very proud that her daughter could stop working because her husband earned so much that she didn't have to work. At the point of pride that she'd married well.
Yes.
Yeah, and that sort of thing. Like, and I go, okay, great. It's just interesting. That is still a thing, especially
Yeah.
for my family's culture, where like, if you can marry well and not have to work, that is a sign of success.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
in mine too. I don't know what.
Uh,
Yeah, but yeah, then I mean, what do you think a lot of people in Asian community think if someone says, "My son works as a plumber or a builder, but they make a lot of money"? Do you think they're bothered by that? Listen here, my son's a builder, he's a scaffolder, but he makes a lot of money.
well, this is the old cliche. When I was younger, it was a case of like my like they say like my cousin is a well they say like my cousin is he's a builder, but he's in charge of something. They would add the proviso that he's slightly more prestige status
Yes.
than the entry level. So they would make sure that like people knew like, oh, he's a builder, but after 6 months he's already a supervisor. Like they would add that bit of information in unsolicited, that information to make sure people knew that this person was moving up faster than the average person in that field. Um, so and that's yeah that would sort of happen, but it's yeah because we used to have regular family get-togethers when I was younger, often barbecues. The old Vietnamese barbecue was a big thing, and they would talk about people's jobs and that sort of stuff, or relationships. But if something wasn't going well, it wouldn't be mentioned, and everyone would just understand that
Yes.
that's the case.
But it's very lawyer-esque what you've said that where the way they do it they'll say, oh, he works as a plumber. Oh, don't worry, but technically he owns the company.
Yeah,
Oh, how much do they make? Oh, £10,000. No, but technically
technically,
in a
yeah,
year's time,
yeah. He has shares, that sort of thing, or
yeah.
or he's a manager, or whatever that means, or that sort of thing.
Uh, but no, I mean I think things are gonna. It'll be interesting to see what happens like another 10 or 20 years because there are more actors and more people from the
Mm-hmm.
Asian community getting into the arts. So it'll be see how interesting things get in 10 or 20 years. And as I said to you before, I mean there weren't when I first started doing comedy, there weren't really many Asian shows at all. But now it's good to see that there's more coming in. And I think, yeah, why shouldn't there be more Asian comedy shows or of any nature? Like we've got
Mm-hmm.
a voice to hear as well. Like from our community, we got stories to tell. The stuff we said here, that's funny things that happen in
Yeah.
the Asian community that needs to be shared. And it is what's for people in the group as a whole, what's like the passion behind the comedy agents? Like for me, I think there needs to be, for why I run Asian comedy shows, I want to see more Asian comedy shows. So that's why I'm also running one as well. That's one of the big
Mhm.
passions for me.
That is, I mean, that is the big sort of big passion for us, is that we want more Asians in improv, and we want more Asians in to experience improv, like to go out and teach them, like and feel comfortable with Asian teachers teaching Asian students. One of the things we're doing at the moment is doing workshops for that, and like trying to contact specific Asian stand-ups and other improvisers to come and do guest slots on the show that we have, Comedians and Friends, every month. We're very lucky again to have this platform where we have the ability to program our own night. We program all the acts in it, and we often get two stand-ups in, and we got scouts who go out and look for those guests to come there. But the big thing for us is to increase the visibility of all Asians on stage. That's the thing we want to do, and not just in our own show, but to grow to other shows. I know that I was told recently by one of our students from a previous workshop we did that they've put together their own little troupe from the students from that, and so
No,
they're starting to work on their own improv
that's
troupe, which is
awesome.
great. We want to do more of that, do more workshops, and that takes time. It's not a quick thing, sadly, because we've got to get liability insurance, we've got to get a place to do it, and like teachers who are available and that sort of thing. All that stuff takes time to do and organize. But our big mission, well, for me, is to have more Asians do on the stage, whether improv or otherwise, and to be more visible in the world than they are at the moment, because there's space for it, and we'll make space for it, and we will advocate for that space always. And Hoopla, lovely company in London, were very generous at the time in giving us a whole night, which is not something that they give out easily. It's because they also recognise the need for a program night run by Asians um, once a month, and that's not a publicity stunt. They realise, like, yeah, we don't know what we don't know, in that sense. So we need you who are Asians to help run this situation, and we partner with them to do that. And we also do other shows as well. But it's about, for us, getting those people on stage, getting people comfortably on stage, and getting people to know that we exist as a comedy as a comedy group, because it's fun for us to do that. It's fun for us to show that and showcase people's talents and skills, and to increase that visibility.
Now, common thing that I interviewed a previous guest on the podcast, Spiky Mike. He's probably the biggest comedy club promoter in the UK. And
Okay.
one of the things, this sounds so stupid obvious, and you're going to say, come on,
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. I'm ready.
But I mean, the key thing to a lot of good comedy shows is repeat business. And like Vandervelde says in the comedy shows he runs, it's the community that keeps them going in. Because once you have a community, you don't have to work nearly as hard to get an audience or create the right vibe. And I've noticed that myself with some of the nights that I'm running Southwest London, because me and I pick some hosts that are not only are they good at emceeing and hosting, but they're
Mm-hmm.
also friendly people that interact with people as people. So it creates a nice vibe, people feel welcome,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more of a connection. How do you feel that not only with the troupe but also with the audience members? Like you must get a lot of regulars coming back as well. And what's the vibe like after the shows because
Yeah,
of that?
we have. It's more so recently discovered that we are getting people who come back as regularly for our shows, which is great. And you're right, the community is helpful. They come on a regular basis, and that gives you confidence to build up, because we know that they will send word of mouth. It's one of the things that they will do. That's one of the biggest ways of promotion. Like, they tell their friends, their other friends who tell their friends to come along. Because I'm pretty sure almost every improviser has the same story, where when you first started improv shows, you desperately send out messages to your friends and family and going, "This is my first time doing a show. Can you come and support me and come and watch these shows for the first time?" Like, because I don't know if anyone's going to be in the audience. And we're very lucky as a community. We've sold out the last few shows at Hoopla, and there's a few people in the audience, come on a regular every month to come and jam with us and just come and look. And yeah, building that community is, it's not easy, and maintaining that community is not easy either. Like, we put a good vibe out there, we put a good show on, but there's always that fear. I don't have a fear personally myself, but I know as a group we do, like, of, if one month we have a bad month, what will that do to our show? Like if we have a bad show one month, we'll like drop our audience off. We don't know, so we always like making sure we. That's why we practice so hard to be good at what we do, um, and to make sure we keep our following. I guess that's going there, and it's the improv community is lovely, and improv audience community is lovely as well because improv audience community, as a rule, want you to succeed. They want you to be good at what you do, and they're very generous, fairly with their laughter and their feelings about it. Um, and we got to a stage now where we're getting repeat people coming along, and we can chat to them afterwards after the show and get their sort of like unofficial feedback, and they tell us what they found funny and what they didn't understand, and that sort of helps feed us. Go, okay, right, you didn't understand. We'll make it clearer next time, or that sort of thing. Okay, this sort of thing you found funny, like pratfalls or like verbal, like rapping or whatever we did, that sort of stuff. And then, interestingly, I went to Dublin last year, did a show there, and in Norwich, where I live, someone recognised me from a show I did in Dublin. That was a bizarre sort of thing. That she's now and then she comes to improv regular jams that we run in Norwich.
Oh,
Like not because of me, but because like I think she realised it's like interesting to say that there is a reach. Like if you keep going at it, people will recognise you and you'll do it. It's fascinating when you get recognised by people on the street. It happens to me occasionally going, "Oh, you were in that show." Going, "Oh, that's a nice feeling."
yeah.
And I'm not trying for that, but it's great. It's a nice feeling that keeps you going. Okay, this is worth doing. And only works with word of mouth. And you go, it's hard to what you call it, quantify it. But when you see a familiar face of the audience and you go, yeah, they're there again, and it's nice to like they're your support net that you want them to be there. I guess it must be difficult, I guess, for stand-ups because I got very few friends stand-ups. I think obviously the material doesn't often change that much. Maybe one or two jokes in a set over the course of a year because they're still refining it. I do watch a lot of work in progress shows for Edinburgh Fringe. And it's interesting seeing their partners in the audience or their friends in the audience who've obviously seen the set before because I've seen it more than once, and they're still laughing at the same things. Whereas in improv, it's never the same. Like regardless, like even if the setup's different. So it's interesting how every time we come to a show, it's always going to be different for us. Whereas if you went to a bunch of work in progress shows for stand up, it's the same thing. But I don't know whether that person gives you feedback on whether it's working better or worse.
One question I'd like to ask in that: what level of act were they, and what kind of comedians work in progress shows did you see? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, I don't know how to describe levels, but they've been doing it for like a few years, and it's like it was a regular night in Norwich where they'd often have guest acts come in, which was great, but they also have like local acts. And because I went, it was and because there were like 3 or 4 different comedy nights, I'd go to 3 or 4 of them a month and watch the local acts or the guest acts are up that month, and it was often like seeing them. Like I watched a couple of work in progress, and it was interesting to watch because most of it was the same, and I still found it funny because it wasn't just the jokes I found funny; it was the performance, the delivery, and the confidence that I find engaging with stand-ups, not necessarily the material sometimes. Like something like if the material is good, it will speak for itself sometimes, I guess. Even if the material is bad, but a comedian leads you to the joke or the punchline. Like if there's a punchline at the beginning, it's great. It's like I love the masterful way it works, way to get through that. And also I tend to feed off an audience energy. So if the audience find it funny, I will find it funny. Like you can feel that vibe. Like we want this joke to be great, so we're all the tension's built up, so we're going to laugh at it. But yeah, I think a lot of them. There was a lady that's who's changed stamp style every time, and you could tell she was having a hard time because she'd change it every month. Every month I'd see her, and she would do it like, and didn't like she didn't realize other comedians were doing stand-ups were doing the same material month after month, refining it. She was literally writing a new set every month while taking care of 2 3-year-old children at the same time, and like driving herself mad with it. And then other people would like, do the same set, and I would travel across Norfolk to go and support them because my friends were in them, but see them at the same time. But I still enjoyed it. I said it's the for me, it was the skill of the performer, not necessarily material, that made me laugh sometimes.
And the key, it's funny what you said there because I noticed sometimes with friends you can make them laugh easy because they know you, they get all your
Mm-hmm.
what's intri, intri, what's the word?
Intricately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so much how the question that I want to look at is a lot of the times how important is it that they like your vibe or your funny personality or your brand? How important is that? Because if they like your style or the way you do it,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to be funnier than if it's just the words. It's, as you said, it's so what you said there. It's so important about the performance and the
Mm-hmm.
brand. But then again, it may repel the wrong people as well, and they'll have a
Well,
strong reaction to you.
There's I was asked this question once or more once in one of the class. Like, is there anything you can't do in improv? And can you set any show in improv? Like, how bizarre can it be? And my answer was yes, you can, provided the audience know what they're in for. Like, if you can't sell you couldn't sell a dramatic Tennessee Williams based improvised show in a comedy festival as easily as you could at like an improv theatrical festival. Or like I got friends who do an improvised role playing game, and it sells very well at like conventions and gaming conventions because that's the audience who want to do it. I have done theatrical improv shows in a pub that did not work, and people didn't really get it. Wasn't for them. I've done sort of like comedy shows in like what we call bar prov, where they want just dirty jokes, and I've not done that. Doesn't quite work with improv sometimes. You're not in that sort of thing. So I think if you know what your product is and you sell it in the right way, almost anything can work, and you can find an audience for it. But perception improv community, I agree with perception, is that the improv shows that sell fairly well, like very well in my opinion, are genre-based improv shows, like Jane Austen, like I said, Dustin Taylor just earlier, Harry Potter ones. They sell generally better than ones which are generic improv shows. Never wrong generic improv shows, but if it hasn't got a separate hook, like there's a non-improv person involved, it's difficult. Like my friend does a couple of my friends do murder mystery improv shows. Murder She Didn't Write and Crimes in Improv, two very good improvised shows. But the murder mystery thing is a hook that brings people who are not improvisers into the show to watch a comedy improvised murder mystery because it sounds horribly difficult, and it is. But people want to see that sort of thing. Or if I told people, like, come and see my improvised short form show, it's a harder sell if I'm not a known quantity as a performer. Like if Paul Merton was doing a short form comedy show because he's a big TV personality, that would probably sell fairly well. I mean, Paul Merton did one a few years ago with David Tennant, the famous Doctor Who. And I imagine that sold very well because, it's a separate hook to bring people in. Like somebody who doesn't often do improv, that's itself is a hook, like but fairly famous. A name will bring people in. So I think big names and big concepts like murder mysteries or musical improv will tend to bring some people in who aren't improv savvy necessarily. We're very lucky that we got to work things like there are theatres in Bristol and London and Nottingham and Reading that are improv sort of bases. So people can understand you're watching an improv show. You don't have to do too much to it to tell them people that this is something they make up on the spot. And same for improv festivals. The audiences there are all improv savvy and therefore know that you're what they're in for, and you give a little description. And so you could do a mixed bill on an improv festival, have one show which is like all about. I did show Nottingham last year where one show was all about their relationship with religion. It was very funny, but also very touching. And another show was about sexy yoga boys, which was just cool, right? Like one was like, the first show was called "A Man, a Priest, and Atheist Walk into a Bar," all about religion and how religion. And another show was called "Sexy Yoga Boys," which is an improv clown show. Well, you know what you're getting in for, right? If you go to watch their shows based on the name description, so you can sell almost anything, I think. But but your name makes a big difference. I think if you are, there are certain names in improv who are bigger names than others. Like Colin Mockery is a big "Whose Lines Anyway" name. Like I don't know if you watched. I watched recently. Last one laughing, and there's a British version, Irish version, and a Canadian version. I saw one Colin Mockery on it. I only sort of recognized him, but he was like I recognized this Canadian improviser on the show. He's one of those sort of names that almost every improviser I've ever met knows the name of. Because not only is Colin like an excellent improviser, like I don't know if this is relevant. Famous, like he's got a child who's trans. He fights for trans rights, so he's a fairly big name, a very that sort of thing in improv, and he uses his platform for the good of visibility and vulnerability. I think.
Yeah, it was yeah, and what you said there's interest. Yeah, I saw a perfect example of what you said with Brand and to sell because he did a improv hypnosis show with a guy, and the guy hypnotized random members of the audience to do improv alongside Colin Mockery. I don't know. You get a bit skeptical as if he did or not,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a fun show.
Yeah, and it's like you said, that sort of concept can sell if you've got someone like Colin attached to it, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for anyone that's listening in right now,
Mhm.
um, how do they find out about you? And yeah, what would be your words of wisdom to any, and I'm gonna phrase it very specifically, from people from the Southeast or East Asian background in the UK, what advice would you give them if they want to chase the performing arts?
Okay. Um, there are lots of things I could say. One of the things is find the right time for you to do it. It's like I came to improv relatively late. Like I was 37 when I started improvising. Um, Before then, I was probably ready for it, but it wasn't to that point in time I realized that, do you know what? I miss the arts and I like working in the arts. Like, if your time's not ready for you, if you are, this is just me being horribly examplist in the sense like, if you've just finished university, you don't know what you're doing, or you've got a young family, you haven't got time to do it, that sort of thing. You can do small things about it. But if you want to pursue it like hard and fast, find the right time for you. And that could be right now, or it could be 2 years from now, or it could be 10 years from now. Don't give up on the dream just because it takes time to have the right time to do it. Was something that I discovered for myself at the age of 37. Like, I'm ready now. I might not be ready 10 years ago, but I'm ready now to start doing this and do it in a hard way. Um, and like, back yourself, because it's difficult we discussed it earlier, in families want you to do certain things, especially, and I'm talking generic about East, Southeast, and South Asian, sort of like from discussions with my friends that our parents from that generation want us to succeed, and success equals money, and that sort of thing. But it's a case of if it, if you've got enough to get on with, then make yourself happy. Basically, go travel what you can, find out what you like, find out what you don't like. It's a case of back yourself and realize that you could do it. Um, yeah, that's advice I give people. Like, find the right time for you, and have faith in yourself and back yourself when it comes to the arts.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and if people want to find me, um, I do have a Facebook page, which I very rarely go on to, and on Instagram, so you can sort of find things. But I perform regularly with the Comediasians, and I also perform with the Maydays, which are based in Brighton, and Michelle, which is the Hoopla team. I perform with them. They're my team shows I perform regularly with, and I guest on various things and do other shows. You can find me on Instagram, which is Jonathan.Nguyen.37, and my Facebook page, which is John Doing Improv. I think he says confidently. It's it is no, yeah, John Doing Improv. Yeah, Facebook.com John Doing Improv are the two places where I post the things that I'm doing. And as this is going out, hopefully before the last weekend in April, if you want to come to Southend and watch me do 48 hours of improv in a row for charity, for refuge, that's where I'll be, taking part in a improvathon for that amount of time, making up one continuous musical improvised story. If you're watching this after last week in April, you've missed it. If you listened to before then, great.
Okay. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. We're going to upload this episode this Sunday, and I will see you soon. The next guest is likely to be a comedian who dresses up as Hitler. He sings as Frank Sinatra, and he calls himself Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
But I'll see you guys soon.
It's not.